This podcast includes discussion of rape and sexual assault, abuse, murder, and other criminal behavior. Listener discretion is advised. Doug Lovell's relationship with his ex-wife Rhonda Buttars had soured, so much so that on Sunday, May 10th, 1992, he told her off in an angry letter.
I have done everything I can to be a friend to you, Rhonda. I have never bad-mouthed you behind your back, and I have treated you as kind as possible on the phone.
You've heard most of this already, at the end of the last episode.
As I said earlier, Rhonda, you win. You don't need to hide behind the answering machine or ask the kids to lie, or even make up lies yourself. I won't call, write, or send anything anymore.
What you didn't hear was the aftermath. Days later, on Wednesday of that same week, Weber County Attorney Reed Richards signed a formal immunity agreement for Rhonda. This was something South Ogden Police Sergeant Terry Carpenter had promised Rhonda more than a year earlier.
There was an agreement made between you and I that immunity would be sought for you, and that there would be no charges filed against you per se your involvement with Joyce Yost. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there was a condition that I put on that. Do you remember what it was? Provided you didn't pull the trigger, we wouldn't have any problem with that. And the reaction was to that was that she hadn't been shot. Is that right? Okay.
But that original verbal agreement had not carried the force of law. Rhonda had incriminated herself without a signed and sealed immunity agreement.
That's really the first solid lead that we had, that she knew and that Doug had done it. We knew he'd done it, but we could never prove it.
Terry's entire case depended on Rhonda. She had spent months assisting his investigation with no lawyer, no safety net.
We got so much information from her that we would never have gotten without her.
She had twice worn a wire into the Utah State Prison, placing immense trust in Terry.
I don't need court.
You know, you do well in court.
No, I don't.
Yes, if you look at your track record, they've never been able to keep you. You know.
The time had come for Terry to reward that trust. The formal agreement signed on that day in May of '92 promised Rhonda would receive transactional immunity from charges, like the capital murder case prosecutors were about to at long last file against her ex-husband. This is Cold, Season 2, Episode 8. Help Me, Rhonda. From KSL Podcasts, I'm Dave Cawley. We'll be right back. The ink had barely dried on Rhonda Buttars' formal immunity agreement when, on Thursday...
The date today is the 14th of May, 1992. It's approximately 16:02 hours.
Doug Lovell received word he had a visitor.
This is Terry Carpenter. I'm currently at the Utah State Prison, awaiting Doug Lovell to come and talk with me.
Terry had brought a summons, ordering Doug to appear in court to answer for charges related to the disappearance of Joyce Yost. The counts included capital murder, aggravated kidnapping, and aggravated burglary.
I want to give him a chance to talk to me. I hope he will talk to me.
I hope so too.
I'll be surprised, but I want to at least give him the opportunity to.
It had been more than 7 years since Doug had first followed Joyce home and raped her, a crime that had landed him in prison. Doug was living in SSD, the prison's special services dormitory. Colleen Bartell, a social worker at the prison, had made space for him in a group substance abuse therapy program there earlier that year. Doug was in the middle of one of those group therapy sessions when a corrections officer came to get him. He headed over to the prison offices, where Terry was waiting.
How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Good to see you.
It was almost a year to the day since Terry had last visited Doug at the prison and told him he intended to charge him for Joyce's murder.
Doug, I'm keeping promises today.
All right.
Okay? Come down to talk to you if you want to talk about it. I'm here to serve you with the summons on a capital murder.
I have to say.
Doug eyed Terry's microcassette recorder. Terry reassured Doug he could speak freely.
It's not on. I haven't even put a tape in it. There's the tape.
Of course, he neglected to mention his second, hidden recording device, the one capturing this copy of their conversation.
If you want to talk about it, I'll be glad to work what I can with it. I made you a promise before, if I could get the body back, I would drop the capital aspect of it, or we would submit it that way. But those were the only terms that I would work with.
Doug had refused that earlier offer.
I'm going to read it to you so you understand it, Doug. This is the undersigned complaint upon the oath states that the complainant has reason to believe that the above-named defendant on or about the 11th day of August, 1985 in Weber County, state of Utah,
Have they proved that she's even dead?
committed a capital felony, to wit, aggravated murder, which is murder in the first degree, and then it gives the codes for it. As amended as follows, said defendant intentionally or knowingly caused the death of Joyce Yost under any of the following circumstances.
The circumstances included preventing Joyce from testifying, retaliating against her for testifying, and hindering the government's investigation into her rape.
This information is based on the information from both myself, Gordon Kaufman, and Brad Birch, who are the people that gave the information.
Gordon Kaufman?
Gordon Kaufman is the person who she was with on Saturday night. She was one of the last people that saw Joyce alive. Okay? That's why we used his information.
And that was just count one. Terry read the other counts. Kidnapping, for taking Joyce with the intent of terrorizing her and preventing her testimony, and burglary for breaking into her apartment with the intent of causing her bodily harm.
So you're saying they found Joyce Yost?
Not saying that. What I asked was for your cooperation, and you refused to give that to me regardless.
Well, I don't know anything about Joyce's disappearance.
Okay.
I didn't then, and I don't now.
Terry whipped out his pen, signed his name on the summons, and provided Doug a carbon copy. The cogs must have been turning in Doug's mind. If police didn't possess Joyce's body, what evidence could they have? The only person other than himself who knew what had happened to Joyce was...
My concern is for Rhonda. Can you tell me anything that's happened to her?
Yep, I'm going after Rhonda right now, Doug. And I can prove her involvement, too.
Involvement in what?
In the murder and death of Joyce Yost.
The two men stared at one another.
Are you saying that I or Rhonda or I...
I'm saying
took the
you
life of Joyce
and that
Yost?
Rhonda assisted. That's what I'm saying.
That Rhonda assisted in a murder?
Assisted you in that.
You're saying I killed her?
I am, yes. I sure am, Doug.
You're wrong, Carpenter. You're dead wrong.
Well, I think things will prove to show otherwise, Doug.
Terry said he wished Doug had cooperated when they had met a year earlier. His refusal would likely cost him his life. Doug seemed unfazed.
I'm telling you I didn't kill Joyce Yost.
And I'm telling you, I don't believe you, and I know that that is not true.
If you think Rhonda was involved in something, I guess you're crazy.
I could tell you a whole bunch about it. It's not going to do me any good to tell you what I know. I wouldn't have a warrant for you, and I wouldn't be going to pick up Rhonda if that was not the case.
This was, of course, deception on Terry's part. But it had the intended effect. It watered the seed of Doug's paranoia. His fear Rhonda might crack.
I know what I know, Doug. And
You got a warrant
the time for blowing smoke is all done. Okay? And
Yeah,
I'm not going
it
to play
is.
anymore. I gave you a long time to do it, so...
And to be honest with you, I'm glad it's here. I'm glad it's here so we can finally get it out because I'm tired of it being held over me. I honestly am.
The cards were on the table, and Doug believed he held a hand that could beat the house.
If you think I killed Joyce and you think Rhonda was even so much involved in a criminal homicide case, you're wrong.
Well, I don't think so, and I think without any question I can prove it. So we'll be glad to submit it and work with it from there.
Fine. Is that it?
That's all I have. Yep.
They stood and walked out into the hallway. Terry expected to find prison staff there, waiting to take Doug over to Uinta, the prison's maximum security building. But they weren't there. Doug took off down the hallway, as if headed back to SSD.
Doug, come back for a minute. I don't think they want you to go anywhere. I don't think they want you to go anywhere.
Where am I going to go?
I think they want you to wait right here.
Doug did as ordered, and while they stood and waited, lit a cigarette, then wished Terry good luck. Terry replied, this was a good chance for Doug to consider what he had done.
The last time I faced you, I stood eyeball to eyeball with you and told you that I'd made arrangements to get you out of jail, to take you to your mom's funeral. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was true, Doug.
And if we would have been on the streets, you would have approached me with that, I would have took your fucking head right off.
Well,
Using my mother like that.
I didn't use your mother for anything.
The hell you didn't.
That was an opportunity for you, Doug, to be able to get out of here and do something on your own. Otherwise, you'd have never got it, and obviously you didn't get it, right?
You brought me that way on the streets.
Well, if you was on the street, you wouldn't have had to have any help to get there.
Yep, the way you used my mother like that was bull.
Well, I didn't use your mother.
Yeah.
You knew about it. You was the one who
used
commented on
another
it.
person. My mom had just barely died, you son of a bitch. If we was on the streets, Carpenter, I would have took your fucking head right off.
Well, that'd be welcome. You know?
And I'm not a basket mental case like I was in Joyce's trial. You guys got a hell of a fight on your hand, and I'm glad
That's
this
good.
is here.
I'm glad it's here too, Doug. And obviously nothing's got to you. There's no conscience involved, and that probably tells me basically what I needed to
I
know.
did not take the life of Joyce Yost. If she is in fact dead, I did not take the life of Joyce Yost, nor was I there.
Okay.
And Rhonda was no way involved.
I think that will prove otherwise, Doug.
Doug doubled down.
Well, it would have been nice to have gotten to the point where you'd even talk about it or give us what information you did have about it. And, you obviously didn't want to do that.
I don't have none. And
That will change.
Doug turned and walked away from Terry again. He found a prison guard and asked to go back to SSD.
Okay, whatever, I'll see you. All right, I'll be there.
Terry was not finished, though. He went to find the duty officer as Doug headed across the yard.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Your inmate's not doing so good, though. I just served capital homicide warrants on him.
Ooh, man, he's not a happy camper.
He is pissed.
Okay. Where'd you put him at?
He went back. I stood out here in the hall for 15 minutes with him, and he walked right back and said, I'm going back to SSD.
SSD duty officer. What was his last name again?
Lovell.
Hey, Langley, send a Lovell back over here to the building. Yeah. He should be on his way back. Don't even let him come in the building. Just send him right back over here.
Terry had taken the advice of a prison informant named William Babel, whom you heard in the last episode. William had told Terry the prison would be able to place Doug in maximum security once the murder charge was filed. Terry had arranged to make that happen. Doug was losing his place in SSD with all its privileges. The officer in charge at the prison that evening was Carl Jacobson, the guard with whom Doug had for so many years watched the 6 o'clock news. Carl had by this point in '92 promoted to the rank of lieutenant. Carl took the call from the duty officer and headed over to SSD to intercept Doug. Terry Carpenter, meantime, warned prison staff to be cautious.
Okay.
He's not hostile, is he?
Oh, he's pretty upset, yeah.
Oh, he is?
He's pissed.
He doesn't know he's down to 3?
No, not yet.
Doug's brother Russ received a collect call from the prison on the evening of Friday, May 15th, about 24 hours after Doug's move out of SSD.
This is U.S. West Communications. You have a collect call from
Doug.
Please answer the following questions, yes or no. Will you pay for the call?
Yes.
But it wasn't actually Doug on the line.
Hello. Yeah, I'm a partner of Doug's, man. They got him in a lockdown situation right now. And he's over here in Unit 2 as maximum security. Well, he's in Unit 3. And he asked me to call you. I don't know if you've heard the news or not.
Yeah, it's in the paper. It's supposed to be on the news in a few minutes.
Yeah, it's already been on at 5:30 on 4. It should come on at 5 and 6 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
The man told Russ Doug had an urgent request. He needed his brother to call Rhonda.
He wants to know how her and the kids are doing. And he says if she's home, please call Weaver County Jail to see if she's been booked yet or not. They told me they was going to charge her.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They told him that yesterday. He says, well, the detective told him I'm going up there to arrest your wife now. Your ex-wife now.
The man asked Russ if he knew whether or not Rhonda had been arrested.
Oh, I have no idea.
Could you call, and then if she isn't, I'll call back in 30 minutes.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right, then. Thank you for accepting the call.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Doug's friend called Russ again a short time later.
Hello there.
How you doing?
I talked to Rhonda. They didn't pick her up or anything. She has to be to court at the same time Doug does, I guess, Wednesday morning.
Did they go talk to her?
Yeah.
And they're charging her too?
Well, they haven't yet.
Mm-hmm. But they're going to charge her Wednesday?
Probably.
Uh-huh.
Well, all she said is she had to be to court Wednesday.
Okay, well, he just wanted me to find that out.
Yeah, so she'll be there probably the same time he will.
Okay.
The man told Russ his brother wasn't in a great state of mind.
Well, that's the way Rhonda is. Rhonda's not very good either.
Yeah, it's sort of a complete shock to me, you know, but there isn't too much I can say over the phone, so.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I better let you go.
All right.
Thank you for accepting the call. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Doug's move to the prison's Uinta facility had triggered TRO, or Temporary Restrictive Order. Solitary, in other words. He had spent hours stewing alone in a cell, wondering what pressure police were then applying to Rhonda. The very first call Doug made when he came out of TRO on Saturday morning was to Rhonda's phone. She didn't answer, so he called his brother Russ.
Have you heard anything?
About?
Huh?
About what?
With Rhonda? How's she doing?
Well, she's okay. Well, I mean, she's not good, but she's got to be that court thing on Wednesday, too.
Doug told Russ he didn't understand what the police were doing, since neither he nor Rhonda had had anything to do with Joyce Yost's disappearance.
They still don't have, to my knowledge, any proof that this woman's even deceased. You know, everybody down here is telling me that they're bluffing. That there probably ain't even going to be any charges.
Yet Doug seemed most concerned about how his ex-wife was responding.
Was Rhonda ever charged?
No, I guess she will be Wednesday.
See, that's kind of weird too, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, usually when they have a warrant for somebody, especially, what are they going to charge her with?
I don't know.
Conspiracy to commit?
Probably.
That's a serious charge. That's a 5 to life. You know, they would have arrested her and took her right downtown. Booked her, questioned her, interrogated her, the whole bit. Doesn't that seem odd?
Yeah.
Doug begged Russ to call Rhonda and give her one simple direction.
You know, Rhonda's got nothing to hide, and I got nothing to hide, but, you know, you need to get a hold of her, Russ, if you can, and tell her not to say anything to anybody at any time.
Russ told his baby brother not to worry so much. There was nothing Doug could do about any of this until his arraignment hearing the following Wednesday. Still, Doug couldn't help but bemoan his situation.
I've lost my job, you know. Now if I win this, I got to reinstate my job and everything. But in the meantime, they took me from my job. They took me from my facility. I've lost everything. I'm sitting here in a orange jumpsuit. Looks like I want to go deer hunting. Bright orange jumpsuit with blue floppers. I got nothing over here. They don't let you smoke over here. God, it's crazy.
Russ suggested maybe Doug should sue the police for harassing him. This made Doug hesitate, and he again brought up Rhonda.
Listen, I can't leave a message on Rhonda's telephone machine. Would you please leave a message on her telephone machine and have her call you immediately? When she does call, tell her that everyone down here is telling me that this is bullshit. They probably ain't even going to charge us. And, you know, it's a big bluff thing to see if anybody does know anything and see if they'll crack or not. Tell her not to say nothing to the police, to nobody. I mean...
Doug had to get in touch with his ex-wife. In the back of his mind was the angry letter he had sent her at the start of that week. How would she respond to it now? When Rhonda at last answered one of Doug's calls, the letter was the first thing he wanted to discuss.
Did you get my last letter?
Yeah, I did.
Well, disregard it for now. Hell, coming at a bad timing. I mean, you know, I was going through a lot of changes over the kids, Rhonda, but I think right now we need each other. Can we at least have that?
Rhonda told Doug she might soon be joining him at the prison.
Rhonda, you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything and I didn't do anything. We got nothing to worry about. Anything they got, some reliable people have told me down here that they're shooting for the stars. They didn't even arrest you, did they?
No, but I'm supposed to be in court Wednesday.
Right. Doesn't that seem a little odd that they didn't arrest you?
Rhonda knew full well why she hadn't been arrested, but she conjured a different story for Doug. She said maybe detectives hadn't wanted to haul her away in front of her 2 kids. Doug reminded Rhonda this was an eventuality they had always known might come.
I mean, as soon as we first seen it on TV, I says, "Oh my God, they're going to believe that I did it from day one. They're going to believe that I had something to do with her disappearance." So we always kind of knew that there might be some over it, right?
I don't know what we thought, Lovell. I'm sick of this, okay? I'm sick of it. You better do something about it. Because I'm out here living with the kids, and what the am I supposed to say?
That you didn't do anything, Ronnie. You didn't.
I know I didn't, but I still got to go to court, Doug.
I know it. But Rhonda, if they don't have anything,
they got to have something, Doug.
Really?
Take us to court because they have nothing better to do.
How about last January when they said that they had a witness that could lead them to a body?
Doug rattled off a list of past news stories about Joyce's disappearance, noting how none of the supposed breaks in the case had ever amounted to anything. He said he intended to go to arraignment and have his court-appointed lawyer file a discovery motion. That way he could learn exactly what evidence the police had. Doug told Rhonda he had it under control.
Remember like I did on that poaching thing, Rhonda? I knew what the hell I was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I should have done that with John, but, because of my injury to my back, I was on all those Percodan and Valium and stuff. I laid down, Rhonda. That's exactly what I did, is I laid down.
Doug said even if police arrested Rhonda, they would have to give her bail. If needed, his dad or brother could arrange a property bond for her, just as they had done for him after his arrest for rape in April of '85.
If in fact Joyce is dead, they're going to have a hard time proving that she's dead. First off, they have to prove that there's a death before they can say that there's a murder. Don't you understand that?
Doug, it seemed, understood well the concept of corpus delicti. He begged her to trust in him and to trust in the system. Underlying this, though, was Doug's actual fear. He towed up to the brink of it, like a person easing over ever-thinning ice on a frozen lake.
This has all kind of come about since you and I split up. It kind of makes me wonder. Not about you, but I don't know, it makes me wonder about a few things. I hope you'll fight this with me, Rhonda. And I just ask that you please trust my judgment. I won't let anything happen to you.
Rhonda told Doug she didn't want to hear it. He wasn't in control. He couldn't protect her.
I need you, Rhonda. I think we need each other.
I'm gonna go, okay?
Honey?
Don't give me that, okay? You're right through it. I'm going now.
Please don't hang up on me.
I'm gonna go. I'm not hanging up. Bye.
Rhonda?
What?
Please don't leave me like this.
I don't want to talk to you more, Doug.
If Doug had had doubts about Rhonda's loyalty before that call, they could have only grown more ominous afterward. Doug called Rhonda again the following day, on Sunday, 1 week after writing her the angry letter. Rhonda told him she wasn't feeling well.
Well, I feel a little better today than I did yesterday. Got a lot of time to think. That's all you got to do over here is think. There ain't nothing else to do. Think or fight, take your pick. Rhonda, I don't know how things are going to turn out. But I want you to know and have faith that I will do the right thing. When the time comes, let's see what happens and see what kind of cards are dealt to us.
Rhonda didn't say much, even as Doug peppered her with more questions. What time was she supposed to be to court? Had the police given her a list of charges? Did they leave her any papers?
It's extremely odd how they did it to you. I mean, if they wanted charges, they would come up and say, Mrs. Buttars, we're
you know, Mrs.?
Well, Miss Buttars, we're South Ogden Police Department. You know who we are. We have a warrant for your arrest. Would you please turn around, put your hands behind your back. You do that. They probably have a lady officer with them. They would take you down to court. They would book you, fingerprint you, take your mug shot, and then they question you. Ask if you want an attorney. They read you your rights. They never did none of that. That's why I question the whole thing. And I'm not saying they won't charge us.
But Doug said the odds of a conviction were very low.
I mean, there's probably 10 people in all of America that have ever been convicted on a homicide charge without the first proving that there's been a murder. You know, a body. I mean, it's extremely rare. It's never been done in Utah. Not on a capital homicide. It's never been done in Utah.
That number's not quite right. There have obviously been more than 10 no-body homicide convictions in the United States. But Doug was correct that no-body capital homicide convictions, which qualify for the death penalty, were and are rare. Rhonda was not much interested in this bit of trivia, so Doug pivoted, making an emotional appeal.
I miss you, Rhonda. I miss everything we had. And I'm sorry I blew it. I really am. I mean, I can't believe what direction I have set my life in. I just can't believe it.
He apologized for acting selfish, for spending their money, for causing her unhappiness. Rhonda bit her tongue.
Is there anything you want to say to me?
No.
Nothing at all?
Mm-mm.
I wish we hadn't grown apart. Do you ever regret that?
What?
Growing apart the way we have?
No. You're the one that did it, not me.
Standing on sentiment was not a strong play for Doug.
Do you just want to go?
Yeah.
You're sure not too talkative with me, honey?
I don't feel good. Did you forget that part?
No.
Oh.
I feel extra bad when you don't feel good. Because I know what you like. And I could be that. I could very easily be that. You believe that?
No.
You ain't gonna give me a glimpse of hope, are you?
Mm-mm.
You're not even gonna let even a little bit of light in, huh?
You had your chance.
That's it. For life, forever, for eternity. Huh? Sounded like a perfume for a minute, didn't it?
Yep.
Doug concluded this call by telling Rhonda no matter what, he would do the right thing in the future. The next morning, he came out of his cell for breakfast just in time to witness a brawl. He told his brother Russ about it on the phone.
Well, we got one of these sections down here right at breakfast, man, a big old fist fight. You know, like I gotta get up and go through the. It's crazy, man, it's crazy. There's been probably half a dozen fist fights just since I've been over here, since Thursday. It's bizarre.
Doug vented to his brother about how much worse life was in the Uinta facility compared to SSD. He figured it wouldn't be long before he could force the prison to send him back.
Because technically I've done nothing wrong to be moved. I've done nothing in the institution to be moved. And technically right now they have to keep my job for me, and they have to keep my spot at SSD. So, you know, I'm not too worried about all that. Because as long as I'm moved for court reasons or health reasons or something that has nothing to do with something that I've done since I've been in here, they can't do anything. So all that's still good, but how long that'll be good, I don't know. I hope this ain't even going to go to a preliminary hearing.
Of course, the real motive for Doug's call was to make sure his brother would be at the arraignment hearing the next day to support Rhonda.
Kids, be honest with you, I'm not worried about it. Because I know I wasn't involved in anything like that. And I know Rhonda wasn't, but, if they're going to try to attack Rhonda, I don't want my children's lives disrupted. That's what it boils down to. And Rhonda doesn't deserve to go through this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I say...
Doug suggested if Rhonda were arrested at the arraignment, Russ and their dad, Monin, should put up a property bond to cover her bail.
You're going to lose absolutely nothing. Just like, when Dad put that $25,000 for me, he didn't lose a thing. There's no way I'd skip out on you or Dad, and I know she wouldn't. She's got nowhere to go. She ain't even got a relative that lives out in the state, and Rhonda wouldn't do that anyway.
Russ said he wasn't sure why they should be on the hook for Rhonda's bail instead of her own family. And he said he didn't understand why police would arrest her anyhow, considering she wasn't involved in any crime. Doug told Russ it was all a ruse. The police couldn't have anything on him because, of course, he hadn't done anything. Neither had Rhonda. And, he said, it had been 7 years.
I can't believe after all this time, Russ, they're trying to pull something.
Well, see, we've got this kid out at work, but we'd always thought he'd killed his wife a long time ago. And they just charged him with it, although his name's Wetzel.
Never heard of him.
And that was back in, that was long before you was locked up. They just charged him with that this year.
No
John Wetzel's his name.
John T. Wetzel. Let me pause here and tell you a bit about the John Wetzel case. Like Doug, John Wetzel hailed from the Ogden area of Utah. His estranged wife, Cheryl Wetzel, had served him with divorce papers on November 13, 1985. A week later, Cheryl turned up dead, having been shot once in the head and left in her car parked near the Ogden River. A month later, around the same time Doug was standing trial for the rape of Joyce Yost, John Wetzel's girlfriend, Kitty Eakes, was pleading guilty to murder. She admitted to the crime, but said she had acted alone. She refused to implicate her lover in his estranged wife's execution. Kitty headed to prison in January of '86, just like Doug. And, like Doug, she entered therapy once there. It took a few years, but Kitty ended up telling the full story of Cheryl's murder to an attorney she met through Alcoholics Anonymous. With that, let's go back to Doug's phone call with his brother Russ.
Well, this one lady, they found his wife dead in a car somewhere, and this one lady that John knew, I guess, took the rap for it. Now all of a sudden she's sitting crying the blues and ratting on him, so I don't know. The papers just didn't have a lot on it.
See, last year...
Weber County prosecutors, the same ones who were charging Doug with capital homicide, had also filed a capital homicide charge against John Wetzel just a few months prior. Kitty would eventually testify against John, saying he had hounded her for weeks to kill Sharon to prevent her from taking his assets in the divorce. John had told Kitty when and how to do it. He had given her drugs, as well as the money she had needed to buy a gun. Kitty had gone along and even taken the fall for it, she said, because she was in love with John. The parallels to Doug's situation were striking. The timelines of the two cases were almost identical. Both involved a sort of murder-for-hire plot, an abandoned car, and a female victim who had held a position of power over a man.
God, and I know I was going to win my appeal, Russ, too. I mean, it would have took probably 18 months to 2 years. But I know I was going to win that. As soon as that hit the feds, they were going to throw that thing up in the air and say, bull. You know, you can't do this. Because there were so many points, man, we was going to get them on that I would have won on. I know it. And I don't know if this has triggered something or what, but it seems like every time my case gets in court, they pull some.
Doug finished the conversation by once again imploring Russ to protect Rhonda, to post her bail if necessary. Later that afternoon, Doug made one final call to his ex-wife ahead of the arraignment. He struck a different tone this time, as if nothing were wrong.
My kids are fine. Huh? My kids are fine. Two can play that game.
It's a joke. Please take it as a joke.
Rhonda was not laughing.
Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.
I'm sure you will.
I'll probably be, handcuffed. Can I get a hug?
From me?
Yeah.
You're pretty brave asking that.
Is that a possibility?
I doubt it.
Really?
Put me through more changes level than anybody I know.
What if it'll bring us together someday?
I doubt it. Brought us apart.
Yeah, I know, but through it all, I wonder if it'll, maybe bond a relationship.
Well, don't count on it.
You never know.
Yeah, I do.
Miracles do happen.
Yeah, they do.
I think maybe if I work my butt off, what do you think?
No.
You think no way for us?
No way.
Why, huh?
Because you put me through a lot of Doug.
Rhonda, people can change. People can honestly, sincerely change.
Well, you haven't to me. If you change, you'd be doing something right now, and you ain't doing It's pissing me off. So, you haven't changed a bit in my eyes, Lovell.
Doug complained Rhonda wasn't making his life any easier. She scoffed.
My life's hell, Lovell. Hell.
Mine is too.
Then do something.
Oh, that'll make it easier?
Yep. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
A long pause. Rhonda lit a cigarette. Its smoke hung in the air, along with all the unspoken context behind her words.
Whether you believe me or not, Rhonda, I do love you. I have always loved you. And I do care. More than any person's ever cared about you. I've just had an odd way of showing it.
Yeah. I'd say.
Please don't laugh at me. I am unserious.
Doug promised one day he would have an opportunity to completely blow her away.
I know that I can give you the life that you deserve and the children the happiness that they need and deserve.
Doug, give up.
I'm serious, Rhonda.
I know you are. So am I.
Well, you can fight it all you want.
I'm not fighting.
Doug had to go. It was time for count, and he had to go back to his cell. He told Rhonda he would see her in the morning.
Well, remember, I'll be thinking about you.
Okay.
Just be strong, Rhonda. You got nothing to worry about. You didn't do anything. Okay?
Okay.
Give my love to the kids.
I will.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Doug arrived at the Weber County Courthouse on the morning of May 20th, 1992, for his circuit court arraignment. He was assigned a court-appointed defense attorney, a guy named John Kane. John's name might sound familiar. That's because John was the same lawyer who had represented Doug 14 years earlier during his 1978 trial for armed robbery. The prosecutors assigned to the case were the county attorney, Reed Richards, who coincidentally happened to be John Kane's old law partner and whose father, Maurice Richards, also represented Doug in the 78 robbery case, as well as a man named Bill Daines. I know that's a lot to keep track of, so let's just focus for the moment on Bill Daines. Joyce's son-in-law, Randy Salazar, told me he remembered first meeting Bill sometime around Pioneer Day. That's a state holiday in Utah, celebrated each July 24th with parades and rodeos. Bill had entered the room dressed not in a suit, but instead in denim pants and a cowboy hat.
And I seen how he put his hands on the desk and just kind of talked to us, and I thought, geez, I hope this guy, but I'll tell you what, that dude knew in fact, he was giving us dates and times, and I'm thinking, damn, you guys are going to do your job. You guys are going to do well with your job.
The first real courtroom clash between these two sides came not at the circuit court arraignment, but instead at a preliminary hearing on July 28th. That's when the prosecution put Rhonda on the stand. At that moment, Doug knew for certain who had betrayed him.
She told me about the night that she had taken Doug up there.
It was the same account she had given to Terry Carpenter.
And that he'd laid in the bushes across the street from Joyce's house and waited for her to come home.
Can you believe she drove him up there and then picked him up? What kind of a person is that?
Joyce's son-in-law, Randy Salazar, sat, stunned at what he was hearing.
You know, you think to yourself, how the hell do you think this didn't happen? How is this lady telling this story? You know, how are you still with this man? Why are you sticking up for him? What kind of lady are you?
At one point, Doug bolted upright. "That's a lie, Rhonda," he shouted. "You know that's a lie." The judge, Parley Baldwin, told Doug to take his seat. "Your Honor, she's lying," Doug said. Baldwin again instructed Doug to be quiet, or else the bailiffs would remove him from the courtroom. Doug flung a curse word or two at Rhonda as the bailiffs approached. "Sit down, ass," Doug said to them.
He could let you believe that he was telling you the truth and emotional about it, and the next second he was angry and mad and no remorse whatsoever.
Rhonda had told Terry she feared Doug. His courtroom outburst only emphasized that. Joyce's son, Greg Roberts, told me over time he has come to feel sympathy for Rhonda.
Somewhere along the way, I've forgiven her. I think Kim would rather see her pay a penalty for what's happened, but I think that she was under the huge influence of this psychopath, and she was in some sort of a fog that those options weren't real for her.
My whole thing with her is that she is, in my mind, the one person that could have stopped it that night. Yeah. She held all the cards, and I get fear. I understand fear. But my mom literally lived across the street from the police station. She could have dropped him off. She could have gone straight to the police station. And before he had a chance to do anything, they could have been there. And he'd have been locked up for a long time. She didn't have anything to be scared of.
Rhonda's testimony was more than enough to allow the judge to determine probable cause existed to proceed. He concluded the hearing by sending the case to the district court, where, a month later, Doug pleaded not guilty to the charges. The district court judge, Stanton Taylor, scheduled a jury trial to begin on February 2nd, 1993. Several weeks before the preliminary hearing I just described, Doug's friend, Ron Barney, met with a Las Vegas Metro Police detective in Nevada. Ron had something to turn over to the police. Two somethings, actually. A Browning Model BL-22 bolt-action rifle and a Beretta M301 12-gauge shotgun. The serial numbers for both guns were listed in NCIC, the FBI's National Crime Information Database, as having been stolen out of Weber County, Utah on May 5th, 1985. They were two of the guns taken from the home of Cody Montgomery Sr. by Doug Lovell and Billy Jack.
The guns went to Callio, where they were buried.
Terry Carpenter had at long last linked the stolen guns to Doug Lovell. He had also tracked down Billy Jack in Colorado, interviewed him, and in the process discovered evidence corroborating Rhonda's account of the Mother's Day weekend outing when they had buried the guns.
Coming back home, they pull off to the side of the road and have to take a leak, to be blunt. And a trooper stops and catches them at the side of the road. And we're able to verify that that happens and who they are.
But how then had the guns ended up in the hands of Doug's old hunting buddy, Ron Barney? I called him to ask that question.
Hello, this is Ron.
Hey, Ron. My name is Dave Cawley. I'm with KSL Radio up here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Do you have a sec?
Yes.
At the time of this phone call in May of 2020, I knew quite a bit about the history of these guns.
I'm trying to figure out how they ended up down there with you. Can you help illuminate that for me?
No, I really can't. I can't remember exactly how that went by.
I knew they had surfaced in October of '85 when somebody had inquired about pawning them at a place in Ogden called the Gift House. I described that back in episode 4. Ron Barney, at that time, resided in Utah's Salt Lake Valley. He didn't move to Logandale, Nevada until sometime after 1988. I knew Terry Carpenter had paid Ron a visit in Logandale in May of '91. I described that in episode 6.
Was that Carpenter, was that the detective's name that came down to Las Vegas?
Yep, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Terry had asked Ron what he knew about the stolen guns. Ron had declined to disclose at that time he possessed 2 of them. He hadn't conceded that fact until Terry had made a second trip to Nevada to apply additional pressure.
And he denied up and down, and we finally says, well, we'll give you so long, and then if we have to charge you, we'll charge you with possession, and then he cooperated.
And so that's why Ron had surrendered the guns to Las Vegas Metro Police in 1992.
No charges were ever filed against him, and the gun surfaced anyway.
My conversation with Ron didn't last long. He told me he didn't want to discuss his friendship with Doug, saying he had only known him through having gone hunting together. He considered that relationship part of his past, a past he did not want to relive.
Okay. Good luck with your research.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate your time.
Terry's recovery of these 2 guns provided further evidence of Rhonda's honesty, and they would be a compelling piece of evidence to show a jury, hinting at Doug's intent to kill. Defense attorney John Kane had a lot of work to do and not much time to do it. With just months to go before the scheduled trial, John attacked the prosecution's case first by challenging the kidnapping and burglary counts, arguing the statute of limitations on them had expired. He also filed a motion to suppress the evidence gathered from the 2 wire recordings of Rhonda at the prison.
If I would have been mentally together, physically together, I wouldn't be here. They'll never convict me. Fight it back to court. No way. No way.
as well as Rhonda's damaging testimony from the preliminary hearing. Autumn turned to winter. Subpoenas went out, ordering the investigators, Joyce's family, Rhonda, and the other potential witnesses to all appear at the February trial. With just a week and a half to go, Judge Taylor issued an order rejecting the motion to suppress. Rhonda's testimony and the wire recordings, he said, were fair game. John Kane immediately asked that the trial be delayed while he appealed that decision. He would ask the Utah Supreme Court to block the use of Rhonda's testimony and the wiretapes. Judge Taylor agreed to the delay. The trial was placed on hold. John told Doug if they won this appeal, he stood a very good chance of also winning the entire case. If the appeal failed, however, John warned his client they would get, quote, hammered. Everything hinged on Rhonda. John also started talking to the county attorney, his old friend Reed Richards. They were frank with one another. Reed said the only leverage Doug had was that Joyce's children, Kim Salazar and Greg Roberts, wanted her body returned.
We definitely were willing to compromise if he really gave us her body.
And so, Reed said he was willing to take the death penalty off the table if Doug would return Joyce's remains. It wasn't a formal offer, more of a testing of the water. John didn't want to commit before discussing it with Doug, so he went to the prison for a face-to-face. He posed the question, would Doug be willing to plead guilty in exchange for a sentence of life with the possibility of parole? Doug said yes. John needed more assurance. He didn't want to get down the road with the negotiation and have it fall apart because Doug couldn't deliver. He asked, could Doug really locate the body given all the time that had passed? Doug said he could find it in the dark. In fact, he was willing to go do it right that moment. John reminded him it was the middle of winter. Doug told his attorney that didn't matter. He would be able to find Joyce's body, even in a blinding snowstorm. If you or someone you know has endured rape, sexual assault, or sexual abuse of any kind, help is available. In the United States, you can call 1-800-656-HOPE or visit rainn.org to connect with free resources through the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. No one needs suffer in silence. You are not alone. If you haven't already, please subscribe to or follow Cold to make sure you get every episode. You can also interact with me and the Cold team on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Cold Podcast. Cold is researched and written by Dave Cawley, with editorial oversight by executive producer Cheryl Worsley. Additional executive producers include Paul Anderson, Nick Piniella, and Andrew Greenwood. Audio production by Nina Ernest. Mixing by Trent Sell. Michael Bonmiller composed the main score. Special thanks to the team at Amazon Music. Full credits for each episode are available at thecoldpodcast.com. Cold is an Amazon original by KSL Podcasts in association with Workhouse Media. Thank you for listening.